Wow. Okay, so we got this recorded. Phil said he gonna call me and let me. Phil,
I got you.
Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Thank you for joining me. I have a special guest with me. He is a music executive, television and film producer, and a Billboard 40 under 40 honoree. On the subject of becoming a Black executive, please help me welcome Mr. Phil Thornton. Mr. Phil, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Cornell, thank you for having me, brother. I really appreciate you.
How are you guys in what is it? Is it Tennessee? You guys are in
Nashville, Tennessee. Trying our best to stay safe and just practicing social distancing, but still trying to stay productive as a division and releasing new music and new video content and still making award show performances and appearances happen. So it's we're getting through it.
Yeah. Well, I gotta start. As a Black executive, we're in this season of Black Music Month, and I wanted to showcase people like yourself because for so many of our young people, they see the artist on stage or they see the player that's running the court, and they aspire to those positions, but they don't even understand the vast opportunities that are available for people like executives, management, all kind of positions that are behind the scene. So they aspire to be the rapper or to be the basketball player, not realizing that, hey, you can do this as well. So I wanted to showcase you and people like you for this season, because I wanted them to see that there are other places that you can thrive and you can be a part of in the entertainment industry. So with that said, we have to start though with this whole COVID crisis. When this hit, I got to tell a short story, but I love Nita Baker. She's somebody that I love. So she announced a year or so ago that she was going on a farewell tour. So I'm like, well, I got to see her. This is her last concert. And she went everywhere. She went everywhere, but here. I mean, Atlanta, DC, all over the place. I'm on the site every couple of weeks just checking to see, and she never dropped dates. So I convinced myself, you know how we do sometimes. I convinced myself, I said, you know what? She probably gonna shut it down with us, being at, we her home city, so she gonna come here summer 2020 and it's gonna be lit. And then COVID hits. And then so I said, oh my God.
Yeah.
I said, well, our luck for her coming to the city is probably gone. But it didn't hit me until a few days after that COVID hit. I was looking at it from a consumer perspective. It's not going to be no concert. My favorite artist on the concert that I bought tickets to is now canceled. It wasn't until a week or so later that I realized this thing is impacted more than me as the consumer. It's impacted the artists, the musicians, the background singers, even the people at the concession stands. As a Black music executive, how has this pandemic, I guess, altered your processes or practices?
Well, first, I love Nita Baker as well. She's one of my favorites. I had the pleasure of seeing her while she was here in Nashville. Yeah, so I was out there, hung out, me and BB Winans and Lettucey and India Ari. We all watched and supported both nights. And I also flew to Chicago to see Anita. I love her. She's one of my favorite singers. But seriously, as it relates to this pandemic, and as an executive, a Black executive, I count myself as fortunate and blessed because, I haven't had to furlough or lay off any employees during this time. And unfortunately, that is the reality for a lot of organizations in our industry, because as you mentioned, there's so many people when you think about that pull off a show, then you get into the people at the venue. Like you said, the concession stands, the parking people, the actual promoter, who promoted the show. So, this lack of touring is really impacting everyone. And we're trying to find virtual ways to get creative to create the experience. We are working through a few scenarios, and even there's the drive-through, a drive-up kind of drive-in movie kind of scenario where we think about having a stage and people driving with their cars. So that's something that some agencies and promoters are exploring now. So we're trying to get creative because music is such a source of hope and healing for people when times are good and when they're sad. And I personally just love the live experience. And by the way, Nita Baker is amazing live to this day. She still sounds amazing too. So
I know you guys at RCA had some releases already set up for 2020, the first quarter of 2020. What were those releases, and how did you guys, I guess, maneuver around this crisis?
We've been on track. I mean, we had Kiara Sheard, her latest offering, which debuted #1 on the Billboard chart. You know, we released her new offering a week or so after the Clark Sisters movie, which she starred in and played her mom, Karen Clark Sheard. So Kiara released. We've got, you know, new music from Kirk Franklin. We just put out a new music video a few weeks ago from Kirk, Strong God. But now we've got new music from Corinne Hawthorne and Molly Music and Marvin Sapp, who just dropped a new single. So we delayed our releases maybe by a month, but I was really wanting to make sure, to the best of my ability, that we could keep everything on track, because, you know, things are still happening and people need music. They need just a sense of hope and inspiration and love and just God. So it's been like, you know, it's been ministry to me too, just to make sure that we're really, of course, Sony's job is to make sure we're profiting and able to monetize it. But I'm like, I just understand from a human being point of view that we absolutely need some great positive music during these times.
Absolutely. So we're on the subject of becoming a Black music exec or Black executive period, whether it's music or otherwise. And many think that you have to have a certain degree or a pedigree or have a certain, I guess, come from a certain type of family, all that stuff, to end up in these kind of positions. Let's backtrack a minute. Share with us your story. How did you end up as an executive in the music business?
It's quite a journey, but I'll give you the short version. My first internship was at the age of 12. I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia. It was a hometown radio station, WOWI, 103 Jams. And so my first internship was there at 12. My second internship was at the age of 15 for Arista Records. At the time, that was the home of Whitney Houston, Miss Aretha Franklin. They had a partnership with LaFace Records, which was TLC, Outkast, Usher, and then, of course, Bad Boy, which is all Notorious B.I.G. and Puff Daddy and Faith Evans, and the list goes on. So that was my second internship. I went to college. I went to Norfolk State University, proud HBCU graduate, and I moved to New York at that point after graduation, started my own management company, and lived in New York for a few years, then moved to LA, continued to manage, started producing television and film, also started songwriting, and I just was loving what I was doing. And so in 2012, a company called E1, the full company name is Entertainment One, but E1 for short, they reached out to me and was like, hey man, you're a great manager. You know, you take no mess from us, but we'd rather have you on this side of the table versus on the opposing side. So when I was originally the vice president of marketing for E1 here in Nashville, and working on their gospel, as well as some of the R&B titles and artists that I partnered with, like Layla Hathaway and Tweet, and that was exciting. And then in 2016, Sony called and made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so that's the very short, consolidated, version. But yeah, it's been a great journey. But I would say for those wanting to be executives, get in where you can, entry-level positions, and learn the industry. Find mentors for people that can pour into you and show you the ropes. I still have mentors to this day. I haven't arrived. I'm still learning. I'm grateful to people like Sylvia Rohn, who's our chairperson for Epic Records. She's a great mentor. I'm grateful to John Platt, who's our chairman over at Sony ATV. He pours into me. I'm grateful to Gio Bivens. I'm grateful to, there's so many great executives that have poured into me over the course of the years, but extremely grateful. But yeah, internship, getting in somehow, some way, and just, finding those great mentors.
Wow, amazing. Now, you mentioned being on the management side of the artistry, and you're also on the label executive side. How do those roles differ, or do they?
I think there's some commonality. I think there's, as far as we're working towards the same common goal, at least that's the hope. So as a manager, you're obviously working for the best interest of your client, for your artist, but as the label who's partnered with you, when the artist wins, the label wins. So to me, I like to look at them as, they're different yet similar. Again, the manager may be more in tune on a day-to-day basis with the artist's needs, but I could also argue the label is just as much, involved when an artist is on cycle and constant conference calls with the artist, and sometimes their agent and sometimes their attorney, similar to that of a manager. Unfortunately, as a former manager, I think it's a thankless job as a manager. A lot of times when things go great, everyone else around you is taking credit for the number one or the platinum flag. And when things don't go as expected, you're the first person on the front line with the artist, and they're looking at it like, what happened? How did this happen? And you're catching the brunt of that unfortunate situation at that time. But yeah, I think there's some similarities, and I liken myself with my managers. I call them my partners because they are my partners, they're my teammates, and we're working towards the same goal, and that's ultimately success for the artist.
Yeah, you mentioned a young lady who is soaring on the charts and who's had her big debut in a movie just earlier this year, the Clark sisters, the First Ladies of Gospel.
Yes,
I've got to ask this question as it pertains to gospel music as a genre. To see, first of all, legendary artists like Mary J. Blige, Missy Elliott, Queen Latifah come together in a collective effort to produce a movie about 5 women from little old Detroit who have impacted their careers, that makes me feel like gospel music is much more influential in the space of the music industry than we really probably give it credit. What are your thoughts on that? How do you view, as a consumer and an executive, how do you view gospel music as it pertains to the music industry as a whole?
Well, let me say, first of all, the Clark sisters movie was amazing. Kudos to my friend, Dr. Holly Carter. That was her baby, her idea 17 years ago. I celebrate Holly Carter, Laretha Jones, who was another producer on the project, as well as Queen Latifah, Mary J. Blige, and Missy Elliott. Kudos to just those Black women. I adore them and respect them all, and so much admiration, but I just wanted to honor them in this moment because it was really one of my favorite biopics that I've seen, and the numbers clearly reflect that the people feel the same way. But as far as just, it's challenging sometimes with gospel, but it's important that we seize the opportunity, and when we get those platforms, make it the best presentation possible. And it's something that I talk often with some of the artists on our roster, my partners, Kirk Franklin and Donald Lawrence. And, those two guys come to mind immediately because they're both two people that are all about the presentation and the level of excellence. So a few weeks ago, Kirk Franklin participated in the Versus online event that Swiss Beats and Timberland host. And Kirk partnered and celebrated along with Fred Hammond, and TD Jakes joined the celebration, and Tamla Mann and Marvin Sapp. But Kirk's big thing was, how can we make this excellent? We've seen this with other genres, various creators in the community, but how can we make sure that gospel, because we've now got the main stage, how can we represent and make sure that on a presentation, the visual, on a sound quality level, and just make it entertaining? And so I think that's always what I'm striving for as the leader of our division at RCA Inspiration. How can we really just make sure that we are comparable to our peers in R&B and hip hop? And it doesn't mean diluting the message, but it's just like from a presentation point of view, from a sound quality point of view, and just, again, being obedient, because God is really orchestrating this all ultimately, but really just like, how can we make sure we're doing our part to just, and again, that requires countless conference calls and meetings to make sure your presentation and the visual is what it needs to be. But I'm just trying to raise the bar on our division, and hopefully I'm seeing others at other labels do the same thing. But as far as our music videos, when we're getting the opportunities to perform on like the BET Awards or Soul Train Awards or whatever platform, let's just make it great. Let's make sure it's excellent.
Yeah. Wow. So well said. As an executive, we hear that word thrown around, especially these days. I want to paint that picture a little bit better. What roles specifically can be classified as an executive? Because a lot of people hear, well, I'm my executive producer, I'm a this and that. There are multiple positions within that. Explain what those roles are and kind of what they might do for a label like yours.
So you have, label executives like myself. I'm the senior vice president and general manager for RCA Inspiration. My job is to oversee the day-to-day operations for marketing, promotions, A&R, sales, digital marketing as well. And as far as the executive producer for various albums, like you have the executive producer, which I've participated in that title because that's the person that's overseeing the entire project, as far as creatively, as far as budget wise, and making sure that, again, everything is done and up to the level of Sony standards, but more importantly, our artists and partner standards, and just making sure that everything is, again, on time, on budget, clearances, everything, producers have been paid, just making sure it's up to the quality for a commercial, release. So that's the big thing with executive producer. And the individual producers, which is more so on a song basis, are the people that are actually, creating the composition along with the songwriters and or artists. So that's the difference. So there's executive producers, and I'm a unique, I don't write on my artist projects at the label, but I am a songwriter and I have that creative ability. So I can give meaningful tips and input, but I try to be careful just because I don't want to, in any way impede and just overstep my boundaries. But I add value and just kind of help, look at it on a 360 level. But yeah, that's the difference between executive producer versus producer as it relates to, you may see something on the back of a music release.
You, not long ago, just actually last year this time, maybe a few months, maybe a year and a half ago, I sat in the audience at New Orleans theater in Las Vegas, Nevada, and watched you be awarded as stellar into the stellar honoree Hall of Fame. I sat there just proud because I saw a Black man who had accomplished so much, and now this whole genre is celebrating what you've accomplished. So it inspired me and motivated me. But I can only imagine what it did for you. What was that experience like for you?
It was overwhelming, and it's still surreal to me just to be acknowledged by your peers and by the community. My journey and starting, I thought about that young 12-year-old Phil who was interning at a radio station, and just to think that before the age of 40, I would be receiving such a momentous honor. It's just humbling, and it's just another reminder, man, that God is truly in control. Like I said, just thinking about the hills and valleys and ebbs and flows that I've had over the years, but to stand on that stage last year and to receive that medal and sit in, just amongst great people like Kirk Franklin and Yolanda Adams, and Barack Obama has actually received that same honor. So to actually be in that same company, it's incredible. And I just want to thank Don Jackson and Jennifer Jackson and the whole Central City Productions team, because they've been great partners for me over the years, whether I've been at Sony or E1 or even back to my artist management days. They've just been great partners. And just to see some of the great moments we've created together, I've had everybody on the stage from Kirk Franklin to Shirley Caesar to Destiny's Child, reuniting the ladies for that epic moment we had a few years back. And I had Snoop Dogg with me a few years ago at the Stellar Awards. So they've just been great partners, but I'm just extremely grateful. That honor, I look at that photo periodically and just like, wow, this is real. And I actually go hold the awards with them like, okay, this is real. This is real. This wasn't a dream. So now it's completely honored, man. Just, it's unbelievable.
Wow. For somebody that may be looking to be an executive like yourself and eventually be honored as you are on so many levels, what should they be really doing to really set themselves up for that kind of success?
You know what? I always tell people, because I never do it for the awards or the rewards. I do it because I love the artist. I love the music. And the way it impacts culture like no other. Music has been the soundtrack of my life. And I just think about, when I've had a breakup, well, when I've had a good day, when it's a Sunday. I mean, I've got music for every mood, but I just tell people, love what you do. Is this truly your purpose? Is this truly, are you passionate? Is this where your purpose and your passion meet? And that is extremely important, because some people just work jobs that they don't like. We all got friends that are that way, but I love what I do. It does not feel like work. And I have a great, great team of people that I work with and support my vision, sometimes crazy. And I'm grateful to all of them, because I could not do it without them. But I really would encourage people to really just do the work, really make sure it's something that you are passionate about. And this is truly that you're operating your purpose, because when you are, it doesn't feel like a job. I'm grateful for the compensation that's attached to it, but being able to work with some of the most talented, amazing artists in our industry. I'm not even going to just say gospel. I'm just going to say in our entire industry, it is unbelievable and it is a blessing. And I feel that way from the bottom of my heart. And, again, as a TV and film producer, I count myself, because again, blessed and fortunate, because I get to tell these stories visually on the big and small screen. And it's just unbelievable that, God would say, you know what, I'm going to give you all of this, because I would have just been happy being a music executive. So, but to get the opportunity to actually be an executive in music and television and film, and I've actually written hit platinum songs. I'm like, God, why me? But I'm grateful, and I mean it. But I just encourage everybody, do the work and learn the industry. So if you want to be an attorney, learn, go to law school, find mentors. I've done all that, like I said, but I love what I do. I'm not afraid to still do the work, and just, be respectful. That's another big thing that I've learned along the way. Be respectful and value relationships, because those are two things that will really, they will make or break you in our industry. Like, you need to be respectful, and and I'm not saying don't be stern when you don't need, when you need to be stern, but still maintain a certain level of respect and dignity, but value your relationships. There's people that I know now, Cornell, that I knew when I was 15 years old interning, and I'm still in touch with this day. Some of those people were interns like me, and now they're presidents of various organizations. So I look at Ethiopia. Hafta Mariam was a dear friend of mine. She's a year older than me. She's the president of Motown Records. And Ethiopia was a young intern like myself. I was 15 at Arista. She was 16 at LaFace. But again, watching both of our rise. But again, that was networking and valuing that relationship, and just really understanding, like, again, I always tell people that are climbing a ladder, it's okay to network up, find you a mentor and network up, but network across. Like, because again, I think about all those other interns and entry-level people like myself. We're all growing. We're all VPs, senior vice presidents, like, and that's how it's supposed to be. But network across. Don't shy away. I tell my team all the time, my coordinators, my label assistants, I'm like, network across, build your network, because you all ultimately are going to grow as well. And that's important, but network across.
Wow. You keep dropping Arista, and I can't help but to ask, did you have any firsthand experience with the great Whitney or Miss Aretha Franklin while you were at Arista?
I did. You know what? I spent more time with Whitney than Aretha. I've met Aretha twice, and but with Whitney, Faith Evans and I, especially when I was living in LA and in New York, we really, really, good friends and spent a lot of time with each other. But she and Whitney were super tight, so I had the pleasure of just really spending a lot of personal time with Whitney and even Bobby when they were married, and just really great. Just got to know who she was as a woman beyond the woman that we see on stage. But Whitney, just I love her, and I actually saw her, the 2 nights before she passed away at Kelly Price's Grammy event, which is actually what inspired a show that Faith and another entity, created, and I was allowed to executive produce, called R&B Divas years ago. But I had the pleasure. That show was sparked by the passing of Whitney Houston, and we highlighted and gave proceeds from the show soundtrack to go to her school in Jersey. But Whitney was just a heart, man. Like, she felt like, that your auntie, she reminded me of like that cool aunt that was funny, that, I forgot that it was like, this is the pop star Whitney Houston around me. And then Aretha Franklin, what can I say? It's only one queen, the queen, Miss Aretha Franklin, but she was super nice to me. Both times I met her, super great, and just great, humble spirit, and honored. You're actually in the process of releasing a very special song, unreleased, from Aretha here in the month of June. So stay tuned. We got something special from RCA and RCA Inspiration, a new Aretha song on the way.
Sweet. Well, you mentioned your show R&B Divas. I've got to ask, when it comes to executive producing in music and movies or television, was there a learning curve, or is it kind of seamless?
And it is a learning curve, and it's a little different on the EP side as far as TV and film. It is similar in some ways because you're managing budgets and managing people, but it's a lot more people involved typically on most productions, especially for television and film. But I will tell you, and I want to shout out my brother, Datari Turner. Datari is a person who is my brother. He started out as a model in this industry. Datari used to do a lot of the like Tommy Hilfiger and Sean John campaigns. And, he started producing, before me. And he did a show for BET many years ago with Dame Dash called The Ultimate Hustler, which was like their version of The Apprentice. And I was just so intrigued by like, how are you doing that, man? Let's do something together. And we sold our first show back in 2006 called I Married a Baller, with Taj of SWV and her husband, Eddie George, NFL Hall of Famer, Heisman Trophy winner. And we did that, and I got to tell you, that was my school. I didn't get to go to USC and one of these amazing, film schools, but I learned on the job with that show. And so I always tell Taj and Eddie, because they literally live minutes away from me now here in Tennessee, thank you for trusting two young Black men. I'm sorry, three, because it was Shannon Love, who's another EP on the show, and just they trusted us. And we didn't really know fully everything what we were doing, but it was a learning curve, to say the least. And we bruised our knee a few times, but all in all, the show made it to air. It is probably one of my favorite shows that I've produced, because it was really real and just actually organic. But yeah, it was a learning curve. And since then, I've learned a whole lot in the world of production. So it's been a blessing though. But yeah, we learned that was our school. That very first show, I married a ball, and then the network started, giving me other specials to produce. So that was my film school, was actually hands-on experience and just partnering with other people. And I look back and I'm like, wow, it's crazy. And Connie Orlando, who's an executive at BET, she was actually our supervising producer when I married a baller. So thinking about Connie, or Constance Orlando is how she was credited then. And she was just, Connie worked on that show with us, and now she's, one of the top executives at BET. So, that's my sister, and love her. But again, we all went in them trenches together, figuring it out. But Connie knew what she was doing. Me, not so much. And Datari was still learning, but it was, I'm grateful for the experience.
Wow. I've got to ask, when it comes to Black executives, who are some of your influences in the industry?
So many. I go back to, I think, again, Sylvia Rohn. I love Sylvia. I love John Platt, Sean Combs, Berry Gordy. I met Berry Gordy 2 years ago at an event BB Winans hosted, and I literally got so nervous. You're talking about somebody who's been around every celebrity or athlete you can think of, and friends with a lot of them. I was literally like a kid meeting Berry Gordy. But Berry Gordy, the late great Gerald Busby, Hiram Hicks, who else is there? Gene Riggins, Sharon Hayward. I mean, there's so many Black executives that I stand on their shoulders. Mr. Andre Harrell, rest in peace. So many that that cross my mind that I'm like, you all created the blueprint, and I'm grateful. And on the gospel side, I don't want to leave the gospel executives out, like Vicky McLatier, who founded Gospel Centric Records. And I love Vicky. I just had the pleasure of speaking with her just a few weeks ago. And I had to celebrate her because it was a virtual panel. And I could not leave that panel without acknowledging her legacy and what she's done for gospel music as a community, but even global. Kirk Franklin, that is why we know Kirk, is because of Vicky, and Byron Cage and Trinity 5-7 and all these amazing artists. But she is absolutely a trailblazer that I don't think all the time gets to her just due. But yeah, so, but so many great executives, but those are just a few.
Yeah. As a big label executive, because you're part of a major label, what are your thoughts personally about independent labels? You see a lot of people starting their own grassroots music labels. What are your thoughts about that? Is there a chance that this can be the norm for our industry?
I think let me first and foremost say I love independent labels. I support my independent labels. Working at E1, they are technically an independent label. It's a larger independent. So I've experienced both sides of the coin. But I think we're going to see more independent labels. I think we're going to start seeing. But the thing I love about it is the scrappiness, but also the cutting edge that a lot of independent labels have. But I love when labels will somehow have a strategic alliance with major labels, because the reality is the majors still have such a relationship with the digital service providers, your Apples, your Spotify's, Pandora, Amazon, etc. Tidal. But even beyond that, on the television side, they're the ones talking to a lot of the award show bookers. They're the ones who have the inroads to get your songs in TV and film by way of their sync departments. So I am pro-independent. I am pro-ownership, but I also think there's value and strategic partnerships. And again, without giving away the pie or giving away your ownership, but again, a strategic partnership where you still can have the autonomy and ownership, but a partner with a bigger entity, because it can really add value. Similar to what we've seen our brothers at Cash Money have done over the years. They own their masters. They've been in business with Universal Records for over 2 decades and still have ownership, but they can sign who they want to sign. They can release it when they want to release it. But Universal is there to really help in certain areas kind of amplify what they already have.
Yeah. Yeah, so good, so good. We're in this pandemic, COVID, quarantine. Things are starting to open up, but I think the effects of coronavirus are going to be felt for many years. I recently had two guests that I highly respect, such as I do yourself, and they spoke about the music business moving forward, and they gave us some good enlightenment on that. I'm curious, as a label executive, what are your thoughts on the business of music? I guess a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, will we still see the effects of this?
I think there will still be some residue. As much as I really don't want to see it, I think there will be, and just in the way we operate, but I think it's pushed us to be more creative as far as the way we record, the way we even capture our visual content. So I don't think, in that regard, I think that's a good takeaway, because it's actually stretched a lot of us creatively on how we can still, release content. But I think on our touring side, there will be some impact there, and just wondering how that's going to look going forward, because will people want to be so close to each other, at a concert? And will you have to wear a mask? What are the restrooms going to look like? It's just so many variables. But I think our live, event space, but even I could argue on the TV side, some of your favorite shows, and whether it's reality shows or film, it's how are you going to capture that content? Like, do people have to wear masks, or the crew? Or it's so many thoughts. But I'd like to hope, that we can get back in a better place. But I think it's going to take us just a little bit of time to really fully recover, because this was literally a global pandemic, and a lot of people lost their lives. And my heart goes out to the families, and just because it hasn't been easy. And for those that didn't think it's real or just a hoax, this is absolutely real. And I just, prayers up with just what it's done, even to, in addition to our people that have lost their lives and families impacted in that way, our global economy, and are here in the States, and just, unemployment at an all-time high. So I just pray that we can rebound. And, I'd love to see it happen in the next year, but I think it's going to take us at least a couple years to fully, rebound and recover from this.
Yeah. You mentioned the concert Fred and Kirk and so many others did just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Is it a chance we'll see? I want you to share a little bit about that, but is there a chance we'll see more of that with our major artists?
We can only hope. I'm grateful to Timberland, my VA homie, and Swiss Beats for, just sharing the platform of Versus, because I think it's such a great platform. I was a fan of it, just watching it weekly like everyone else. And so when they reached out, I just said, this is great. And Kirk was on board, after hearing the spirit and the heart and the purpose, that it wasn't a battle. It was more about the celebration of gospel music, and these two brothers. And that's why they pulled Tamala Mann into the celebration, and Marvin Sapp into the celebration, and Bishop T.D. Jakes into the wonderful celebration to kick things off. But I hope we hope to see more in the future. I know we're having some conversations. I got to tell you, the Versus team was extremely grateful and happy of how things turned out. So I know they're open to having some additional discussions. I think they're talking about doing something with the ladies next. So I don't know if that's Mary or the Clark sisters, or what, kind of pairing they're thinking, but I know they're open.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Well, Phil, I appreciate you. Before we wrap, I got to get you to play this little game with me. It's called My 5 Favorites.
Okay.
So what it is, I'll give you 2 options, and then you just tell me which is your favorite of the 2. All right. The boardroom or Zoom room? The
boardroom.
You say you over this technology.
I'm all zoomed out.
Okay.
I want to be able to see and touch people again, but yeah, the boardroom.
Yes. Okay. A night out or next Netflix and chill?
Netflix and chill.
All right. The box seat or backstage?
Backstage.
That's where all the action is, right?
That's where it is. Yes, that's where it goes down. Yes.
Sweet potato pie or peach cobbler?
Sweet potato pie, preferably my mom's. Yeah, sweet potato pie.
All right. And this one, Teddy Riley or Babyface?
I plead the fifth. I love Teddy. Is probably one of my favorite producers, and has poured in so much into me being in VA. But then Kenny, I love, and arguably my favorite songwriter. So that's a tough one. But if I gotta go, Babyface.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, it is awesome. Remind us of the new RCA releases coming up in the near future.
Yeah, new music from Marvin Sapp out right now. Thank You for It All. It's a single. Corinne Hawthorne's got new music coming very, very soon. Can't wait to hear that she's co-hosting the 35th annual Stellar Awards this year alongside Kirk Franklin and Jonathan McReynolds. We got new music from Molly Music. Man, Molly Music. And new music from Travis Green as well. So we got some really great stuff. And I can't forget about the incomparable Leandria Johnson. Wait till you hear this new music. Leandria. She has outdone herself. I just heard the rough for a new song she recorded days ago. And I have chills thinking about the song as I speak to you. Just talking about it, I'm getting chills. But it's coming real soon. And I'm so proud of her and her evolution. And but yeah, so that's just some of the releases. I'm sorry I got sidetracked, but yeah, that Leandria song took me to a place, but that's coming very, very soon. And then Melvin Crispell III, who's our, the winner of Sunday Best Season 9. So he's got new music coming as a part of our partnership with BET. We've got a partnership with All Nations Music. They've got new music coming. So it's just, we got a lot of great music coming. So just stay tuned to rcainspiration.com.
Yes. So great. Well, Phil, it was a pleasure. You got to promise me if you hear anything, I don't care if it's 5 years from now, about Nita Baker coming anywhere. Somebody got to send me an email. Say something. Yeah. I don't want to see it on Instagram. I don't want to see it after the fact.
I literally, just because a lot of times I will send a tweet and tag Miss Baker and she'll respond right back. So if I'm going to ask her, once we get past, the pandemic and somewhat get back to touring, I just need her to just finish out that run because it was such an amazing performance. And I got photos to even document me meeting her backstage because I love Anita Baker. She is absolutely one of my favorite artists, and period. It's Anita, it's Aretha, it's Whitney. Anita it's just the lyric, the melody, the song, the instrumentation. It's like, that's what I'm listening to Anita Baker today. So
her style, her presentation on stage, just so classy.
Yeah,
classy.
Yeah, it's so classy.
She's the whole package. She's the whole package.
So the whole package. But I got you. I'll keep you posted when I know about more shows. And we may have to just go hit Miss Baker and say, hey, we need you. At least give us another night, one night only. So
yep. If you can talk her executives into doing a live or something, she would shut it down. Yeah. So I don't know if she's into that, but that would shut the internet down. Yeah, she just might. I know, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I guess I heard through the grapevine that she actually in Washington D.C. captured footage from several nights of shows she had there for a documentary that she's working on, which includes live performances. So I know there were cameras there that night at the MGM all night, and so I'm here. There's some form of documentary in the making. So I don't know if that's Netflix or BET or where, but I know that there's some footage that exists that is being, spearheaded by Miss Baker because she manages herself and she's in control of her business, writes a lot of her music. But yeah, so there's some footage. But I just may want to reach out and say, but just can I get a drive of some of the footage? I ain't gonna show nobody but Cornell. That's the only person I'll show. That's it. But I can't. I'm excited just to see Anita Baker live, just the experience. It's breathtaking, man. Like, yeah. And then here's the thing, Cornell. When I saw her here in Nashville at the Ryman, both nights, totally different set list. So it was not even the same. So for those who went the first night, you didn't see. It totally was a different set list. Like the way she ended the show, everything was totally different. So throughout the show, different songs, yeah. Wow. Okay, so we got this recorded. Phil said he gonna call me and let me. Phil,
I got you.
All right. I appreciate you, brother. You stay healthy, stay well, and stay safe there.
No, Cornell, thank you. Stay safe, brother. Continue to do what you're doing and celebrate Black music, not only in June, because this is our month. We're going to add extra emphasis, but celebrate Black music, Black artists, and Black creators 365. So thank you, my brother. Appreciate the time.
Well, this has been the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit cornelljermaine.com.